Lisa wiped the sweat from her forehead and adjusted her uniform. The evening air was warm, but inside the fancy country club, everything was cool and perfect. Expensive chandeliers glowed like stars, and soft jazz music played in the background. It was a night of luxury and laughter. But for Lisa, it was just another night of work. She moved quietly, sweeping near the grand swimming pool where the club's wealthiest members had gathered for a lavish party. Women in glittering dresses sipped cocktails while men in sharp suits clinked glasses and talked business. The guests barely noticed Lisa as she worked. But Lisa didn't mind. She took pride in her work. She had been raised to believe that dignity wasn't about the job you had. It was about how you did it. And she did her job well. If you love powerful stories, like this video, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. Let's go. Across the pool, a group of wealthy adults sat at a private table, their laughter louder than the rest. They were the kind of rich people who didn't just have money. They had power. They controlled businesses, ran the city's most exclusive clubs, and treated anyone beneath them like they didn't exist. At the center of the group was Karen and her husband, Richard. Karen had sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. She was dressed in a red silk gown that hugged her frame like it had been made just for her. Richard, her husband, was broad-shouldered and always looking for something or someone to humiliate for fun. Lisa didn't know them personally, but she had seen their kind before. The ones who acted like money made them better than everyone else. Karen sipped her champagne and smirked. "Look at her," she said in a voice just loud enough for her table to hear. "Walking around like she's one of us." Richard chuckled. "Maybe she thinks if she cleans long enough, we'll invite her to the party." The others at the table burst into laughter. Lisa kept her head down, pretending not to hear. She was used to the whispers, the stares. She had learned long ago that people like them weren't worth her energy. But Richard wasn't done. "She's too close to the pool," tapping his chin. "I wonder if she can swim." Karen's lips curled into a wicked smile. Only one way to find out. Before Lisa could react, Richard took a step forward. It happened so fast. One moment, she was sweeping the tiles. The next, she felt a rough shove against her side. Her foot slipped. Her arms flailed. A sharp gasp left her lips as she felt herself falling. And then, splash. The cold water swallowed her whole. For a few seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then came the laughter. It started with Karen, then spread like wildfire. The guests roared with amusement, some pointing, others doubling over in delight. Lisa kicked her legs, panic rising in her chest. The heavy uniform dragged her down. Water rushed into her nose and mouth. She tried to scream, but all that came out were bubbles. Above her, people were pulling out their phones, recording her struggle like it was a show for their entertainment. Not a single person moved to help. Lisa's head broke the surface for a second, her arms thrashing wildly. "Help," she choked, but her voice was swallowed by the laughter. Then, before she could take another breath, she sank. The last thing she saw before the water closed over her head was Richard grinning, raising his glass in victory. And then, darkness. Lisa's body twisted beneath the water, her lungs gasping for air. She kicked her legs, waving her arms, but the heavy uniform dragged her down like chains. She couldn't reach the surface. She had never learned to swim. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. She opened her mouth to scream, but only bubbles escaped. Above the water, the laughter slowly faded. Some guests nudged each other, waiting for her to pop back up, expecting her to splash and cough like in the movies. But she didn't. Seconds passed. Lisa was not coming up. Karen's smile wavered. Richard shifted in his seat, clearing his throat. The mood at the party changed. Some guests stopped recording. A woman whispered, "She's really not moving." A few of them exchanged nervous glances, but no one moved. No one wanted to ruin their expensive outfits. No one wanted to jump into the pool for a janitor. Lisa's body grew weaker. her vision blurred. The fight was leaving her. Then, what the hell is going on here? The voice was deep, the kind of voice that made people stop and turn. The crowd parted as a tall man stepped forward. His presence was like a storm rolling in. Strong, unshakable. Michael Harris. People whispered his name in hushed tones. Some stood straighter. Michael wasn't just rich, he was powerful. A self-made billionaire, owner of the country club, a man whose name carried weight in every room he entered. And right now, his eyes were locked on the pool, his face twisted in anger. What happened? His voice was dangerously low. No one answered. No one dared to. Michael didn't wait. His sharp eyes scanned the water, and then he saw her. Lisa. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He tore off his jacket, his watch, his shoes, then dove in. Splash! The cold water wrapped around him, but he didn't hesitate. His arms cut through the water, reaching, searching, until he found her. Lisa's body was limp, her eyes barely open. Michael wrapped his strong arms around her and kicked upward with force. Breaking through the surface, he pulled Lisa's head above the water. She gasped, coughing violently, sucking in air like it was the only thing keeping her alive. The crowd stood frozen. Michael swam to the edge, lifting Lisa with ease. His soaked shirt clung to him, but he didn't care. He only cared about the woman in his arms. Laying her gently on the ground, he checked her breathing. "You're okay," he murmured, brushing wet strands of hair from her face. Lisa blinked at him, dazed. Michael slowly looked up at the crowd. His expression was deadly. The same people who had been laughing minutes ago now stood silent, eyes wide with guilt. And Michael Harris was furious. Lisa lay on the lounge chair, her body trembling from shock and exhaustion. Water dripped from her hair, her uniform clinging to her like a second skin. She coughed violently, gasping for air, her chest burning from the struggle beneath the water. Michael knelt beside her, his strong hand resting lightly on her shoulder. His sharp eyes scanned the crowd, eyes that had once been warm and charming, now cold as steel. The air around them had changed. The laughter was gone. The whispers had died. The weight of guilt hung thick in the air. Then Michael spoke, his voice slow and sharp. "Who did this?" The guests froze. No one dared to speak. Some looked away, pretending they weren't part of it. Others shifted uncomfortably, their faces pale. Karen, still standing near the table, let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, come on, Michael," she said, waving a hand. "It was just a joke. We were having fun." Michael's eyes snapped to her, and she instantly regretted speaking. His gaze burned through her, heavy with anger. Richard, always the arrogant one, rolled his shoulders and shrugged. "No harm done," he said smoothly. "She's fine now, isn't she?" Michael's jaw tightened, his hands curled into fists. His next words came out slow, controlled, dangerous. "You think this is funny?" Michael turned back to Lisa, his expression softening. "Do you remember me?" Lisa blinked up at him, confused. Her body was weak, but her mind was racing. Remember him? How could she? He was rich, powerful, a man from a world she had never stepped into. Then suddenly, it hit her, a memory buried deep in her past. Years ago, she had been walking home from work late at night when she heard the crash. A car had swerved off the road and slammed into a streetlight. Flames had burst from the hood. Inside, a young boy had been trapped, his small hands pounding against the glass, his terrified screams filling the air. Lisa had run to the car without thinking. She had yanked the door open, pulled the boy out just moments before the vehicle exploded into a ball of fire. She had never known his name. But now, looking into Michael's face, she saw it. The same piercing eyes, the same jawline. That little boy was Michael. Lisa's breath caught. "It was you," she whispered. Michael gave a slow nod. His voice was softer now, full of something deeper. "You saved my life." Michael stood to his full height, his towering presence demanding attention. He turned back to the crowd, his voice firm, unwavering. "This woman saved my life, and you treated her like she was nothing." The words struck like thunder. The same people who had laughed just moments ago now stood frozen, guilt painting their faces. Karen's smug expression had vanished. Richard's usual arrogance was gone. The power they had felt before, their control over the party, over Lisa, was slipping through their fingers like sand. Michael's gaze flicked to the club manager, who stood nervously nearby. His next words were final. "Ban them. Every single person who stood by and watched. I never want to see them here again." Karen gasped. "Michael, wait. You heard me." The club manager hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Security guards stepped forward. The once powerful elites, who had been laughing and drinking just minutes ago, were now being escorted out like criminals. Karen's face turned red with humiliation. Richard clenched his jaw, but said nothing. They had no power here anymore. Lisa watched, dazed, as the people who had tormented her were removed. Michael turned back to her, his expression gentle again. "You deserve more than this," he said quietly. Lisa didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. Truly seen. And for the first time ever, the country club guests learned a lesson they would never forget. If this story moved you, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we drop new content. Now tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. Let's see how far this story reaches.